Greetings. My name is Samuel Betances. My students call me Dr. B. And I have been teaching in the island of Guam in one way or another since the 1970s. Currently, I am a diversity professional and a consultant. In that spirit, we work with educators, with people at different levels of leadership in the organization. And what we try to do is to increase the competencies of organizational leaders to achieve their mission more effectively with inclusive teams. It's in that spirit that I want to talk to you about a very important documentary in the works that needs your support. The Agana race riot. Fascinating chapter in the history of Guam, but not readily known. It's like a missing link because it's part of a greater story, which is the impact of Black people and African Americans and their interaction with other groups in the States and here on the island of Guam. A race riot on Guam right after the liberation of the island. And what is amazing is that African Americans, Black folks, were not experiencing equality in the States. So they were being treated as second-class citizens, and yet they participated in the liberation, in the removing of the Japanese occupation in the island of Guam. And the island of Guam has a capital named Agana, or Agana, depending on how you pronounce it. But basically at that time it was known as Agana. And there was a race riot that took place in which there were some huge problems, conflicts that were not like the conflicts that were taking place in the United States. Carla Smith is a fascinating social historian of some renown. She's written a master's thesis on the topic. She has taught on the issue. But above all else, she's passionate about social justice. And this missing link in the history of Guam is the contributions that Black people have made and the issues we need to understand about the conflicts that have taken place between African Americans and other groups. And if you're interested in the history of this region, and if you're interested in what was happening over here during the war and after the war, and figuring out how that relates to what we need to understand about what was happening over there in the United States, then this documentary is valuable. History cannot give you an answer to a question you have not asked. And Carla Smith has asked a very important question. What was the impact of African Americans to this island? Why was there a race riot? What caused it? How was it solved? What are the implications for today? So even today, as we experience tensions across identity lines, and we hear about Black Lives Matter as a way of saying that in a way they have not mattered as much as other lives. In this small island, a huge drama was taking place. And in that drama that was taking place as the United States expanded its influence to the Pacific, this island became a very important, valuable piece of real estate. But what happens between people is as important as what happens international between nations. So in order to better understand the American reality on Guam, this documentary needs to be completed. And it can't be completed unless we in the States and we on Guam who care about the history and care about social justice contribute to that process. The Agana race riot is worth understanding on many fronts. It's the missing link in the history of the region and Guam. It has implication in understanding what black people are going through in the United States and also in these islands. And it has a lot to do with the fact that history has this gap that needs to be filled. And so we invite you to make a contribution to our quest to make history, the historical narrative, complete. The Agana Race Riots documentary needs your support. It will help us to become better Americans, better citizens, and better human beings. Thank you very much.